Hello there, men, and welcome to the Masculinism Movement channel, a place for men to be men and to talk about masculinity and men's issues. I'm your host, Brian Krall, and today I want to talk to you about masculinity versus machismo. I've spoken a lot about masculinity on this channel, and I've spoken about machismo as well in a video that I did on that and macho men, which if you haven't seen, watch before watching this video by clicking the link below, because now I would like to do a video comparing machismo and masculinity. And I would like to start by sharing with you an old Spanish folk tale about a bullfighter that I heard when I was living in Mexico, which is a culture called machista culture because it is so macho. And so there was once this bullfighter a few hundred years ago or more, I think maybe in like the 1600s or something, named Don something or other. It's not really important because bullfighting is stupid and is what I would call macho. But anyways, this is an interesting story that I think really illustrates the distinction between the two. That this bullfighter was really seen as the exemplary male image in his culture. He was the image of masculinity. He was a cultural icon of the man's man, kind of like the Marlboro Man in the 50s. So for that culture, he was basically like the definition of masculinity. Now, there was a journalist who wanted to interview him, and he granted her an interview for the afternoon one day. And after he ate lunch, which he prepared himself and was not prepared by his mother or his wife or anything like that, after lunch, he realized that his maid housekeeper had taken the day off that day. And that the reporter or the journalist was coming over and he wanted her to see his house in, basically perfect condition, right? Because of course he was a classy, high society kind of guy. So he started cleaning up from his lunch and he took the dishes over to the sink and was going to start washing them, but then was like, wait, I don't want to get my suit wet, right? Because in traditional cultures like this, men wear suits, right? So he looked around and he saw the maid's apron. So he grabs the apron, puts it on, and it starts doing the dishes, right? And he's just about finishing up when there's a knock on the door. And it's the female reporter. So he answers the door and invites her in and says, hold on, I was just cleaning up for lunch. Now the reporter is basically like dumbfounded at what she has seen. Because she comes to his home and sees him in a pink frilly apron. So, he finishes up the dishes and puts the apron away and turns around and, she's just standing there like, Don, what gives? Like, what the hell is going on? Why are you wearing a pink frilly apron? You're supposed to be the image of masculinity in our culture. And he said, well, yeah, so then that's masculine, right? If I'm the image of masculinity, then that's masculine. And that is exactly the attitude that a masculine man has. And to a masculine man, it would only make sense to put on the apron to not get your suit dirty while you clean up after lunch so that you and your home can be presentable for the reporter, right? Only a macho man would be insecure in his masculinity and be worried about potentially being seen wearing an apron or even cleaning at all, right? Would rather either, be seen with a dirty home or would rather get his clothes dirty or have to completely change out of them and change into new ones again, right? Rather than wear an apron. That is the macho attitude because these are the types of things that having insecurities or a complex such as the Napoleon complex, which is what this is, causes these, these people think these types of things out of their insecurities. Whereas a masculine man who is secure in his masculinity wouldn't even worry about such a thing. Like, yeah, I have a freaking apron on because I'm cleaning up my lunch, so that I can wear my suit underneath and just take it off and be ready for the interview. I mean, I didn't want to change into dirty clothes to do the dishes. It only makes sense. But what's interesting here is that I heard this story when I was living in Mexico, the machista culture. And so I went and told it to my Mexican girlfriend. And her reaction was, kind of interesting and ironic and paradoxical. Basically, I told her that I needed to get an apron one day, and she looked at me funny. And I said, well, so I can cook for you while wearing nice clothes when we have a date. And then just take off the apron and sit down to eat and then have nice clothes on then, right? Rather than having to change, into dirty clothes to do the cooking, right? And then it's like, when I'm serving the food, I have to then run into the bedroom and change into my suit, which takes, a while to put on, right? So it only makes sense to wear an apron. But, the fact that I had to explain myself showed that she came from a very macho culture where she would literally question my masculinity or something if there wasn't an explanation, just like in the story. So I told her the story. And, I could see that she obviously understood the message. But there was just too much of this machista cultural programming and social conditioning in her mind that I could tell from the look on her face and her reaction that she didn't really totally believe it and probably wouldn't like seeing me cooking in an apron, even though there is a functional purpose for it. That she basically felt on a subconscious level that masculinity existed in some kind of cultural box, which obviously it doesn't. And a man shouldn't be so insecure about his masculinity or be so judged by others that he feels the need to wear nice clothes. But then, has an issue where he doesn't want to wear an apron if he's going to cook for his girlfriend, so he ends up like either ruining his nice clothes with the Italian tomato sauce he was making, or, in some sort of complicated changing situation where she's waiting for him and the food's getting cold. But like there are literally macho Italian guys who live on Jersey Shore. I heard about this on the Jersey Shore show, that these guys are constantly buying new white shirts for that very reason. They always want to wear clean white shirts, but they would never do something like put on an apron or be seen in dirty clothes, even though they were doing something where they might get nice clothes dirty. They're constantly getting their white clothes dirty and buying new white clothes. So you should feel comfortable wearing like an apron, or maybe not even that, but like something that might be considered a feminine color. Ooh, right? Or you should also not worry too much about being seen and not looking your best, or even that good at times, because you shouldn't be letting insecurities get the better of you. And you see, a man who is acting macho and doing these kinds of things is pretending to be hyper masculine because he feels insecure and has an inferiority complex. So that's why those types of behaviors that I illustrated are not what I would call masculinity, but machismo, because it is machismo that masks its insecurities with this narcissistic Napoleon complex and will deny anything it perceives as weak or feminine, right? And that never wants to be seen looking bad, right? Or looking vulnerable. And in the end, this complex and these types of behaviors end up causing more and more issues. Masculinity, on the other hand, is authentic and secure in itself. Not that it doesn't have insecurities. You can have insecurities. Everyone does. But you have to feel secure enough in your masculinity to admit that you have them to yourself and allow yourself to be vulnerable and insecure at times and work on turning weaknesses into strengths. Not ignoring them and acting like you don't have them, and worse, masking them with a fake tough guy persona and overcompensating with this narcissistic superiority complex and becoming all macho. A man who is secure in his masculinity, a manly man, an alpha male, is someone who does what he wants unapologetically and isn't ashamed of his interests or anything that he does, even if it appears feminine or shows vulnerability even, because a strong man can do that. So actually, it can be a show of strength to be vulnerable and unafraid of doing something that might appear as feminine, like wearing a feminine kind of color in your shirt or something like that. Or admitting when you are wrong and apologizing for something, or admitting that you have faults and flaws. It takes strength to do these things, okay? So strong men do these things, whereas macho guys generally won't. All right, so don't try to be a macho man. Be a man's man. Be centered and secure in your masculinity. You don't need to overcompensate for anything and try to be all macho. Be confident in yourself and who you are as an authentic man. And don't let anyone else emasculate you with any macho bullshit, because as I talked about in the last video, macho men love emasculating other men, calling them girls and such in order to make themselves feel more masculine. When in actuality, that is just a sign of their insecurities and inferiority complex. So don't overcompensate when you are feeling emasculated by becoming more macho. Be true to yourself as a man and your genuine, authentic masculinity. And in the next video, I will talk more about emasculation and how to deal with it. So that concludes this talk. Thanks for listening. Be sure to share your own thoughts and opinions by commenting below some of the ways that you distinguish masculinity from machismo. If you're a macho man like me, you love Mafia movies. Now, unfortunately, they haven't come out with any good ones since like the 90s, but fortunately, I've written my take on the great American novel, a new classic for our time, the American Mafioso, a short crime novella that is written in scenes just like a movie and is equally psychological as action-packed. It's a super short and exciting page-turner that will keep you on the edge of your seat right up through the shocking finish. Get yours at the link below for the super low price of just $5. And if you love mafia stories and gang culture and want to understand the truth behind the mafia from a more academic perspective and get into the history, culture, sociology, politics, business, and psychology of the mafia, then my new book, The Italian-American Mafia, A Socio-Political Perspective, is just for you. The Italian-American Mafia, called Cosa Nostra, was the most powerful organization this country has ever seen. So, what secrets can we men learn from old-school mafiosi to help us improve our lives today? This book gives a gritty inside look at the mafia along with an intellectual analysis of it that makes this book perfect for someone who is just as nerdy as they are macho. Get yours in the link below for the low price of just $10. The perfect books for a man's man to read while on the toilet, for instance, or just on the couch, or in your favorite chair, or a throne perhaps, or anywhere you might sit and watch TV, except this time instead of watching TV, you're reading, so that you don't have to be stupid from only watching TV. And unlike most books, these aren't even boring. This one, in fact, is just as exciting as watching a movie if you were watching a movie in book reading form, while this one is extremely intellectually stimulating. Now, you can actually get smarter from reading while also being super entertained at the same time. It's a modern miracle of science. The science of the mafia. The science of machismo. So hurry up and get your copies today before I have to jack up the prices, skim more off of the top on account of inflation, eating up all of my profits. I got a business to run, you know. Now go on, get out of here before I have you whacked. Capiche? That concludes this video. Thanks for listening. I hope I mansplained that good enough for you. If you like what you heard, please click the like button. And if you feel you gained some value from this video and would like to give some back, please do so with the PayPal link below, because your support helps fund me doing this work and fight the good fight for men like you. And otherwise, take care of yourselves, men, because no woman out there is going to.